Hi, my name's Neil Davis and I'm the founder of Digital Cloud Training. This video is an excerpt from our upcoming course for the AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate certification that is made up almost entirely of hands-on labs. Over 20 hours of practical exercises to give you the knowledge and experience to pass your exam. I hope you enjoy the video, and for more information about our courses, check out our social media. We're now going to cover the weighted routing policy. So the weighted routing policy is similar to simple, except that you can apply a weight to each record. So what you do is you create a record, so let's call it weighted.dctlabs.com, and you create multiple records within Route 53, each with a corresponding value and IP address of a server. But you then specify the weight, and what this does is it means that this is the percentage of traffic that's going to be sent to that target. So in other words, Route 53 is going to respond. In this case, they total 100. They don't have to, but in this case, we've got 60%, 20%, and 20%. So that means that 60% of the time, Route 53 is going to provide this value, 1.1.1.1. And then 20% of the time, it's going to provide one of the other values. Now you can configure health checks, but they are optional. So the way this works then, you've got your DNS querier, whatever that might be, a user, a machine, an application, sending a request for weighted.dctlabs.com. The response comes back, and 60% of that time, that response is going to send you to the instance in this region here. Now, of course, these could be in the same region or they could be in multiple regions. That's not really a problem. You can set that up however you want. And then 20% of the time it's going to send to each of these two resources. So let's go back to the console now, and we're going to set this configuration up. So I'm in my hosted zone, and I'm going to create a record set. I'm going to call this weighted, and the first one I'm going to do is an alias. So I'm going to select my load balancer as the target, and then I'm going to select weighted, and I need to give this a weight of 60, and I need to give it an ID. Now, evaluate target health comes up when it's an alias type. We can choose to enable that or not, so it says that it checks the health of the record set that the alias record points to. Now, associate with health check is optional for other record types, but because this is an alias record, it is actually mandatory. So we need to actually associate this with a health check, and we actually have our Sydney ALB. And it's just given us a warning to say that the health check specifies the endpoint by domain name, and just confirm that the resource record set isn't the same as the domain name in the associated health check, which we know is okay. So let's just create this record. And what we want to do now is we're just going to go back to where I've recorded these addresses, and I'm now going to say that 20% of my traffic goes to North Virginia. So we come back in and we create a new record set. We call it weighted again, so it's the same name. It's an A record. I'm going to specify the oh, I didn't copy that IP, so let's just go back and make sure I copy it properly. Here we go. So I'm going to remove that, paste the IP in, and we're going to have weighted, and this time we're going to give it 20%, and I'm just going to call this NV weighted, and this time we'll leave the health check off, and you see that works fine. And so we've got another one now. It's going to be weighted. Let's go and get the IP address, and this third one is going to be our instance in Singapore. So we paste the IP address in, change to weighted, and put in 20% again. So I've created those three records, and so now you can see that they're all called weighted.dctlabs.com. They're all A records. One points to a load balancer, and it has a health check specified. The others just point to IP addresses. So, and we can see here the weight. So this shows us the weight as 60% should go to the load balancer, and then 20% and 20%. So let's open up a new tab in our browser window, and let's go to weighted.dctlabs.com. And so of course we get our responses as expected. This is the EC2 instance in AP Southeast 2B, and let's refresh that. So we can see that we're cycling through. That doesn't mean that Route 53 is doing this. What Route 53 has done is it's given us the IP for the load balancer in AP Southeast 2, and then the load balancer is just going to keep cycling us through. So really that just shows that we've gone to the Sydney region first. And if we open up a command line, just going to clear the screen, and let's do dig weighted.dctlabs.com. And so what we see now is we have two records. It looks like they're about to expire, and the two records are both going to correspond to the load balancer. They don't actually correspond to the back-end instances. They're going to respond to the actual load balancer itself. And let's just run that command again, and we've got a new response, but of course it's the same IPs, because 60% of the time this is what we're going to get. And if we just keep rerunning this, and you might want to do that in your lab, and we'll see after a while that you do get a different response. So that's really it for weighted routing policies. Just remember, you can have health checks. They're optional unless you've got a load balancer, in which case you do actually need to specify a health check. And really it's all about having a weighted response. So you might want to use this in circumstances such as you're releasing a new version of your application and you don't want to cut all your traffic across to it. So you might, say, have 80 or 90% of your traffic going to your main website, and then you have 10 or 20% going to another site with the latest version. And then you can see how that goes before you cut across the changes to your main website.